Brought to you by Mr. Pros TV, streaming from Tempe, Arizona. And we're live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey guys, Jordan Nilsson here, host of Real Estate Pros on Mr. Pros TV, and today we're here at Guild Mortgage in Tucson, Arizona with a very special guest. We have Dick Nichols of Keller Williams, Southern Arizona.
Absolutely. Good to be here, Jordan.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
I am totally honored, truly honored that you invite me here today.
Yeah, so for those watching that don't, I first got to know Dick about 5 minutes ago, and he's got some we got some props, so this is going to be a fun show today.
Well, I figured, I was always told that I had a face made for radio, so if I came on video, I better do something a little different, you know?
There we go.
Yeah, I don't want to break the camera. I don't want to break the camera. Okay.
Awesome. So tell everybody, I guess we'll give you a couple minutes to introduce yourself, how long you've been doing real estate, what interested you in this industry.
After the Civil War, I decided, no. Actually, I've only been doing real estate for about 8 years. Again, my name is Dick Nichols. They call me the go-to guy. And quite honest, I got that moniker because everybody told me where to go. I thought at first it was an insult, and then I realized it's because I knew the right people to talk to and how to get the job done. And so I tell people, well, I get her done for you. But I'm very proud to work with a company called Keller Williams, Southern Arizona. And I'm over on Kolb Road, 1849 North Kolb Road, and wonderful people. And I just moved here 4 years ago from, you may have heard it, it's a third world country called Detroit. And I moved here because, well, it was so doggone cold and snow. And I decided, and I was at Keller Williams back there in Detroit, but I said, no, I'd rather shovel sunshine than shovel snow. And I couldn't pick a more beautiful place to live than Southern Arizona and Tucson. I am absolutely in love with this town, and I tell everyone I can, from Detroit to the Vatican City, about how beautiful Tucson is and what a great place it is to live, and wonderful people, great food, and great real estate professionals like Mr. Pros who come in and help people like me, and we've got a spot for them. I got in the business because, well, I started my own insurance agency. I'm a licensed insurance agent back in Michigan, and a friend of mine says, Dick, we've got this office here that holds 200 offices, and it's a real estate office. Would you like to become a realtor? And I thought about it, and I thought, man, putting an insurance agent among 200 realtors who have people buying houses, that means that they need homeowners insurance, and they probably have at least one car or two cars for every garage. I said, doggone it, yes, I want to do that. And so I did very, very well. But the more, because I had to get licensed and I sat in those meetings, I discovered how wonderful real estate is. So I'm not a dabbler. I'm a professional licensed realtor. So I really do not sell insurance anymore. I'm 100% full-time, solid gold, mega realtor, and I love the business. And I try to tell people I'm a licensed professional, and my job is to help people make their dreams come true, whether they're trying to buy the house of their dreams or sell the house that they're living in now to buy the bigger house of their dreams. My job is to make it happen.
So you did something interesting, which is actually pretty tough in an industry like real estate, and that is move from where did you grow up in Detroit? You're like born and raised out there your whole life?
I have been on every street in the city of Detroit. I love Detroit. Now this is hard to believe. I know you probably won't believe it, but I spent 65 years in Detroit. After I got paroled. No, but no, I grew up in Detroit. I watched the Tigers, the Red Wings. I won't mention the Lions because one thing that Tucson and Detroit have in common is that neither city has a professional football team. Sorry about my friends from Detroit who are Lions fans. It's just one of my better jokes. But anyway, yeah, I love the city. I love Michigan. But after a while, you know, when you're 125 years old, you decide you've had enough. And so
you moved out here. Did you know people out here already? Or?
I knew my wife. She moved out with me,
Nice.
and we didn't know anyone. And you know, to restart any business where you don't know anybody,
Right, that's tough.
it took me out of my shyness. I could no longer be a quiet, shy guy anymore. So I put a badge on, and I even put a QR code on the badge so that if someone wants to scan it, they can get my app so they can look at houses all across of North America. And I'd be walking through Walmart, and I discovered that I call this the Davy Crockett approach. If you remember right, old Davy Crockett went into a cave with a bear and decided to grin it down. Well, if you're walking through Walmart and you look at somebody and all of a sudden you grin and look at them, oftentimes they'll stop and they'll start talking to you. And invariably they'll say, well, what the heck do you do for a living? And I tell them, well, you ever see the movie Fiddler on the Roof? And many people have. I said, remember that one character called Yenta the matchmaker? And they say, yeah. Well, I'm a Yenta. I'm a matchmaker. I take a buyer and I take a seller and I make a match. And that's what I do. What kind of dream do you want? And that opens it up. But I don't want to give away all my trade secrets. We'd have 1,000 Yentas working here in Tucson. Okay. But
That's an interesting strategy that you bring up.
well, you don't want to be a secret agent, but you have to really understand something really important, and that is, if you're a buyer, you've got two main concerns. You want to find a house that fits your needs and the house of your dreams, and you want it to be an easy, you don't want to go through a lot of hassle, but you don't want to pay the top dollar if you possibly can. You want to get the best bang for your buck. Everybody out there agree with that? Great. Now, if you're a seller, you don't want to have a hassle in the selling of your property. You want someone who can lead you by the hand and help you through the whole process. At the same time, you want to maximize as much money as you can for the sale of your house. Now, mind you, remember at the top of your mind is that the sale or a purchase of a house is one of the largest financial deals you'll ever make in your entire life. But what's the one thing they both have in common? Money. Everybody, in the great words of that great American philosopher, Jerry Maguire, show me the money. So I talk about, and I know money's a dirty word, but my job is to maximize as much money for the buyer or for the seller, depending on who I'm representing. And it comes down to salesmanship. And people say, well, that's a peddler in a doorway fighting Dagwood Bumstead. Oh, I forgot about most of you people don't know who Dagwood Bumstead is. It's the old comic strip. That was when I was back in the 1920s. I used to read that. But anyway, you want someone who will negotiate for you. And I'm a professional negotiator. I don't cheat anybody, but I know what to do. And I'll put it this way, when I'm talking to either a buyer or to a seller, and I choose that these are people I want to work with because I have the same opportunity. I can turn down anybody. I don't have to, being in the business for myself, I don't have to work with everyone. So if I like them and I think they're good, then I look at them in the eye and I say, well, would you rather have me negotiate for you or negotiate against you? And when they think about it, I usually have a customer. Now, I know you're doing a lot of questioning here. I don't mean to interrupt all your questions, but I like to work with people, especially who are trying to sell a house on their own. Now, there's a term for that we call for sale by owners, or in real estate lingo, it's called a Fizbo. And there's nothing more miserable in the world than when you try to sell a house yourself. Have you ever tried to sell a house yourself?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
No. I mean, well, don't do it. It's a bad habit. But what happens is that you are stuck answering the phone. People say, I'm going to come out right now and take a look at your house. You don't go anywhere on the weekends. You don't go anywhere in the evening because perchance someone wants to see the house. And then they don't show up. And then you don't know how to do the paperwork. Now, I might not like paperwork, but I know how to do it. You don't know how to do the paperwork, but there's some problems. We have a 9-page purchase agreement here in the state of Arizona. Everybody has to use. So what you're really bound to your property. You don't know if for sure if that person is qualified, if they have funds available. And it happened to me 35 years ago, before I was even an insurance agent. I was the national sales trainer for the AT&T Yellow Pages. Remember the fingers do the walking? Well, those were my fingers, but that's how old I am. But anyway, I said, Dick, you're the best salesman I know of. Why don't you sell your house, and why would you want to give some Yahoo realtor 6% of the value of your house right off the top, just to put a sign on the front yard and wait for some other Yahoo realtor to come by with a buyer to sell it? It just didn't seem fair to me. So I did the job, and I found a buyer for my house. Same time I was building my dream house on a lake in the Oakland County, Michigan area. And the morning I went to close on that house, my buyer backed out. So for 5 months, I had 2 mortgages. I thought I was going to die. Thank God that I lived on a diet of hot dogs and Twinkies, and that just kept me going. But I found a friend of mine who I thought I could trust a little bit, who was a realtor, and he handled it for me. And then many years later, I got in the real estate business, and I realized it wasn't so much the 6%. Because you talk to most people who are for sale by owners, they're willing to give a realtor 3% if you bring a buyer. It's that other 3%. And I thought, well, the real feeling is an emotional feeling. Why in the world do I want a realtor that earns his keep, will spend his time, spend his money, his enthusiasm, his passion, his creativity. That's what I want. And I want to get my money's worth. So I decided to give people their money's worth. So when you hire me to sell your house, now I got to tell you up front that I took my cape over to Sparkles Cleaner, and they're very good people over there, but they ruined my cape. So I can't fly over the houses with my video camera anymore. So I had to hire a drone video photographer, and I use a beautiful thing called video. Most people search the internet and they search looking at videos and YouTube and whatever, but I spend money on professional photographers. I spend money on videos. I have a horse property in which I put a sign out, and I have a picture of Mr. Ed, the talking horse. You know him, Wilbur?
Yeah.
Yes. And I said straight from the horse's mouth, this is one of the greatest horse properties you've ever seen. And then I buy advertising all across the country because I want to give people the best they can possibly get. I don't have a team. I'm a one-man show. I have a wife who's very wicked with making sure that I bring home money because she likes to eat and wants to pay the rent. But I give people their money's worth. And for some reason, people tell other people about it. The doggone thing. I love it. So it's keeping me pretty busy. I love the business. Why don't you ask me a question like I have something else to say? All right?
No, just leading into what you're talking about right now. So, what they get when what a customer gets when hiring you. We were talking about this before we even started this interview. You give away something.
Oh,
we haven't talked about this.
well, I had a crazy idea. I saw a writer over at the MLS, Tucson Association of Realtors, and it said, free pizza if you buy this house. Everybody laughed about it. But I thought, wow. Now, I love pizza. When I grew up back in Michigan, I worked in a little Italian restaurant bar called Melio's. I was going to high school, and I'd make the pizzas, and then I'd go out in the lounge and I'd play the accordion. Now, the owner of the bar restaurant wanted me to play the accordion late. This is a way to clear out the people when they wanted to close down. But he had a great recipe for pizza. It was the finest pizza around. Well, when I came down here from Tucson, I loved the food here, but I couldn't find a good pizzeria. All of a sudden, I discovered a little gem. And Dominic Argenziano, if you hear this, I hope you love it. But little restaurant's called Argenziano's. It's on Houghton, 7 miles south of I-10. They're one of the finest little Italian family restaurants. They have the pizza, the lasagna, and all that stuff. And their pizza, well, you know, I'm the go-to guy, so I got the go-to guy network. It rated 5 go-to guys, the highest ranking we have of any ranking we have. And it's now the official pizza of the go-to guy network. And so I said, okay, I'll give a $100 certificate to anyone who buys a house from me. Now, that means if they're my buyer, they get a $100 gift certificate when they buy a house. If there's someone else buyer who's looking at my listing, they get a $100 pizza. If the dog looks at me and smiles, the dog may get a $100 certificate. But it's good for $100. I sign it here, and they turn it in over to Argenziano's. Every person who's done it now loves that pizza. It is the finest pizza, and the go-to guy would never steer you wrong. I mean, that would be called a bum steer. Anyway, but I wanted to talk about something that was very important. When I had an opportunity way back when I was a trainer at AT&T Yellow Pages, the bean counters took over the company, and they decided to buy a $6 million sales training program from a company called Xerox. Ever hear of them?
Yep.
And was based upon the logical steps of the sale. Well, they said, Dick, we want you to teach this class. And I looked at it, $6 million. Ooh, that's a lot of money. So I wasn't going to say no to it, but as I read it, basically if you do this step, this step, this step, in 6 steps, if you do all that, you automatically got a sale. Well, I got news for the bean counters back at AT&T, but sales is not a logical process. If it was, Mr. Spock from Star Trek would be the greatest salesman in the world. It's an emotional process. Now, I really thought about it, and I discovered there was 4 reasons why anybody bought anything. You buy from somebody you like, you trust, you feel they're competent, and render a good value. Now, if I meet someone and we're talking about them spending $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 on a home, and they don't know me, which most people here in Tucson didn't know me until I came here. That sounds like an oxymoron, doesn't it? And anyway, they normally will put up a force field between them and say, I don't want to buy. I don't want to sell. And they're afraid of me because I know more information about real estate than what they do. So I do everything I possibly can. I go to great lengths to give them all the intelligent information. Information itself it won't be, but intelligent information so they can make proper decisions. And I surround myself with great vendors and great people to make it happen for them. And as I explained this, they start perceiving me as someone they like, they trust, they feel they're competent, and render a good value. And all of a sudden you can see them emotionally go, I can buy now. And they push down the force field. Now that's very important because in every negotiation, whether I'm negotiating with another realtor or a business person or whatever, you got to build upon trust. If you don't like me, would you buy from me? Better say the right answer. If you don't trust me, would you buy from me?
No.
If you thought I was an incompetent boob, would you buy from me?
Probably not.
I'd be working for the government, wouldn't I?
Yeah.
And if you thought that I was going to charge you twice as much and rip you off, would you buy from me?
No.
No. But once you buy and you have a successful emotional feeling about the whole process, it's like finding a good mechanic in town. Ever have someone ask you, who do I take my car to? And you say, John. John's the guy to take it to. And you feel good about it. Because we all have a hard time finding anything good like that, right? The realtors the same way. It's an 80-20 split. 80% of the business is done by 20% of the realtors. So I come through, I educate my clients, I work real hard for them. One of the reasons why the money bag is, when we have open houses, you ever drive down the street and you see these signs along the highway saying open house? And ever see one that's blown over because of the wind?
Yep.
We got a lot of wind here. And ever since I came to Tucson, the wind's picked up. But anyway, I thought, boy, instead of looking for a rock, I'll use these on my open house signs. And it keeps open house signs from blowing over, but also it attracts more visibility to that open house sign because, let's face it, you're driving around in your 59 Cadillac, and you see two of these out there by some guy called the go-to guy. You're gonna say, hey, I may want to see that house. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Of course it does.
Well, I would stop
You wanna hold it?
I would stop and try to figure out if there's money in this bag,
Well, remember I told you I was a successful realtor?
Yeah.
Use your imagination. I'm a professional realtor, and I do it, and no one minds paying me money if I make them more money, all right? And that's the fun part about it. And our economy is, right now, the economy is just going gangbusters. And I found out that, we ever talk about price? How do you price out what the value of a home? There's two ways of doing it, isn't there? One, you hire someone who's a professional appraiser. They're licensed, they've gone to school, they got a certificate saying that. Well, most professional, and they do a great job, but they're used to working with banks. Well, banks don't really want to give you the real value of your house because if for some reason you don't pay them, they have to take it over and they want to make a profit on it. So traditionally, the bank appraisals are a little bit less than what the actual market value of the house is. Now, on the other hand, you come to people who are realtors like myself, and we look at comps. Well, if you got 7 houses in a half-mile area, all the houses are all the same as far as size, pretty much the price is going to be the same. So we go back to the seller of the house and we say, well, you can't charge more for that. Here's what everyone else is selling them for. That makes sense. However, the only other thing is you can expand the marketing effort. I spend my money because I may have somebody back in Michigan or Washington or Oregon. And right now I'm looking really favorably at, say, the state of California. Everybody wants to leave. And they got money, they got cash. So I try to do my advertising for your property in those areas. I even have people down in Tennessee. So they come in and they say, oh yeah. And so we normally go with a little higher rate than what we're asking for. That's one of the reasons I've been able to give more money back to the seller. Now, if I'm working with a buyer, I don't tell the seller about all those people back in Michigan. I got my buyer right here.
Right.
And but you have to be smart about it.
Sure.
And you're not cheating anybody, but you're learning to expand the reach of when you sell a house. And you got to sell a house. You got to talk about how good it is. If you don't do that for your client, you're not doing a job for them. Whew. Do we get a recess? No.
Hey, you're just making my job easy over here.
Yeah, and branding. You may not believe this. I know I come across being pretty humble, but I am a shameless self-promoter. The more I can promote the go-to guy. I have people now who I walk on the street will say to me, hey, you're the go-to guy. I'll say, I certainly am, son. Yes. And I have a funny one to tell you. I had went back to Michigan in September, and I was attending my 50th high school reunion. Can you I know I don't look it, but I am old enough to have a 50th high school reunion. And I came back just in time to attend. The mayor of Tucson was having a symposium for new home buyers, first-time home buyers, and he had all these mortgage companies there. And it's over at the convention center, so I wanted to go over there and meet people. And as I'm walking around, I see the mayor being interviewed by one of the local TV stations. And I'm only about 30 feet from him. And then the interview ends. I've never met the mayor before in my life, but he walks up to me and says, "I've seen you before. You're the guy that did the video with the skyline of Tucson with Godzilla behind him blowing fire and talking about how hot the market here is in Tucson, aren't you?" And I laugh. I says, "Sure thing, Mr. Mayor."
That's funny.
So it's fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so.
So last thing for the audience, so obviously, man, you got a lot of different approaches in real estate that are interesting. You know, branding. You know, how you're selling houses, representing buyers. You know, all the things. So if somebody watching this is interested in hiring you to represent them as a buyer or help them sell their home, how do people get a hold of you, Dick?
Well, you have a big skylight lamp that goes into the sky. It says, "Go-to guy." And I see that, I come running. You call me at my number.
Gonna go get your cape, right?
At 520-306-1599. Or you go to my email at gotoguy, GOTOGUY, at dicknichols.com. Or you go to my Facebook. Or you go over to the office at Keller Williams at 1849 North Cove Road and bang and knock on the front door so they let you in and say you want to see the go-to guy. And I promise you, I'll get you the best deal possible.
Awesome. This has been fun, Dick. Thanks for sharing all your knowledge. And
show me the money.
And
there you go.
And the money.
Yes.
The money. Do I get a gift certificate? No.
Yeah, well, notice I have my name on it and my telephone number because I realize if I put money bags out on my open house signs, probably somebody from Arizona State may. I got a friend of mine works there, but would come by and steal it. So I have to. This is my deterrent, so they won't steal my money bags.
Makes sense.
All right.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining me
Thank
on
you.
Real Estate Pros, Dick.
And God bless you.
Yeah, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.